The Cleveland Browns versus the Philadephia Eagles kick off week 2 of the 2023 NFL preseason. What prospects that you need to know for both teams and who will win? We'll tell you next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can follow me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I'm the host of the Locked On Clemson podcast. And guys, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday. Appreciate you guys. You know what we call you, the family, but you guys are also our everydayers, man. We appreciate all the love and support. And we have Thursday night football, and I can't be across the wavelength for somebody else than my guy Keith Sanchez, Mr. LSU to talk ball with. You can follow him on Twitter at The Talent Code. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, senior draft analyst with the Draft Network, man, and 2019 national champ with those LSU Tigers, man. But you know why we're here, right? Myself, Damian Parsons, we're here to bring you that championship level content every single day, 24/7, 365, surrounding the NFL draft prospects, rookies. You know, we talk about it all, man. And guess what, like DP said, man, this is Thursday night football, right? We're going into week 2 of the preseason of football, man. And we have a hell of a matchup. We have a lot of two talented teams. We have two physical teams. They've been in joint practices with each other. DP, I've been reading articles, right? The Philadephia Eagles, the Cleveland Browns, they've been getting after it. I've heard that it's been physical practices. I heard it's been good on good. So I'm really excited. So we're going to kick this thing off with this, man. We're going to talk about the prospects, the guys to watch for the Cleveland Browns, the guys to watch for the Philadephia Eagles. And then, like we always do, we're going to put it on wax, baby. We're going to pick them. We're going to pick the teams that we think are going to win the football game, man. So let's kick this thing off, man. And I'm DP. I usually toss it to you, and I toss you I ask you a question. I'm going to say this. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to start. DP, tell me what you think we're going to see.
I'm happy about it. And I think we're going to get the chance to see just how he fares against potentially, because this is the third preseason game for the Cleveland Browns. This is the second preseason game for the Philadephia Eagles. I expect the Eagles defense to be the starting group. So if so, Keith, we get to see Dorian Thompson-Robinson against the Jalen Carter, possibly Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, and that number one defense. And that's the litmus test we want to see from him. Because I tweeted out that he should be the QB2. And somebody said, well, I want to see him against the 2s and not the 3s. I said, that's a valid point. Now we're probably going to get to see him against the 1s, hopefully, Keith. So I expect to see this young man, like Kevin Stefanski, get him comfortable, get him into a rhythm, get the run game going, different things like that, and move the launch point, but allow him to get into a rhythm, let him to get comfortable and not have to, just kind of stress on. Don't do what Kyle Shanahan did to Trey Lance. Don't come out in the first 3 series, you run the ball 2 times. Like, no, man. Like, you got to give your young quarterback some help, dog. So I expect to see that and see Kevin Stefanski try to, I don't think Elijah Moore, I think he hurt his ribs last week. In the first preseason game or in the second preseason game with Deshaun Watson as the starter last week. I don't know if we'll see him, but just kind of get the ball to his weapons, showcase that arm talent. And then once he gets comfortable, then you start to see him improvise with his legs, extend plays, make plays down the field. You know what I mean? Be able to push the ball down the field. I'm excited to see DTR against more than likely at least some part of the first team defense for a little while since he's the starter of this game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the headline, right? That is the headline thing or the headline matchup with this matchup with him facing the Eagles is, okay, cool. Like, and we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles as being one of the more talented rosters as far as depth. So even if it's not starters, right, their backups are still pretty good, right? Like we seen Elias Ricks with the pick 6 last week, right? And he can make a quarterback pay. So I'm extremely excited to see Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But DP, I'm gonna go ahead and flip to the other side of the football, and this is for the AFC North. This is for Cleveland Browns fans, right? Apu Aika, right? The defensive tackle is going to be extremely important because the way this roster is currently constructed, even last year, right? you had Myles Garrett on the outside, and then you had other edge rushers, right, to kind of supplement the edge. But the weak point of this defense was the interior of the defensive line. That was the weak point of this defense. So I think that they have to improve that. And Apu Ike is going to be a big part. I think they selected him in the third round, I believe, if I remember correctly. So they used a pretty valuable. That might have been their first draft pick, right? Because I don't think they had a first or a second rounder. So I believe they selected Apu Ike in the third round, and he's going to have to play significant snaps. He's going to have a role, right? His role is going to be helping stop the run, with the Philadelphia. And I think what better test than a Philadelphia Eagles offense, an offense that likes to run the football. They're known for power. They're known for their offense. And DP, there's one other guy, and I liked him in the previous draft, right? And a couple years ago, JOK, right? Jeremiah Owosu Aku. I feel like I probably messed that up, but getting him healthy, man.
Komoro.
There we go. I what people call him JOK, JOK for short. I'm gonna roll with JOK for short, man, because he like the rest of this defensive back field, right? Like, I mean, is laid, right? Like they say, right? It is loaded. They have a lot of talent, man. And he's a key piece to that because he's like a hybrid linebacker safety. So I would definitely want to see, just see him healthy, see him active, seeing him flying around, making plays on a football, because I think he could really do it. And if I continue, DP, I want to rattle off one other guy, not to steal the whole segment. That would be cornerback from Mississippi State, second year guy, flashed a lot, Martin Emerson. The situation with Greedy Williams, that consistently was weird. It seemed like this is a guy that's stepping in. They relied on him a lot last year. He played a lot as a rookie, and I have to think that they're going to play him a lot in this game just to kind of get his feet wet, keep him, keep him going. All the reps he can get as a young guy, especially with them depending on him. So that's the couple guys that I'm looking for, DP, with the Cleveland Browns matchup.
No, and those are some good names, Keith. For me, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Ronnie Hickman, the safety, man, who played very well in the game last week, man. 45 snaps. He played a lot in coverage. He looked good out there. Willing tackler, moved well. All the things that we kind of saw, all the things we saw at Ohio State, right? The instincts, all of that stuff, and it's like, he slipped down the draft boards, but I think they might have gotten them a steal at the safety position with him, pairing him up potentially with Grant Delpit. Or if Grant Delpit, contract comes up and you don't want to pay him, you have a guy that you possibly can supplement in that regard. The center, who when he first declared, some people say he was the best center in the class, and that was Luke Weipler out of Ohio State, right? So having him there. And another guy that played some solid ball, last week. I want to, just kind of see how he handles when he gets in, because this defensive line for the Eagles is so deep in terms of how many different bodies they can throw at you and different body types.
I just thought about a key matchup, man. Will we see Nolan Smith and Dawand Jones go after it? Right,
bro. That was the next name I was going to throw out, was Dawand Jones.
Go ahead. You go ahead, do your thing.
That's a good point, because that's a tale of the tape of two different style fighters. You got the big heavyweight, right? And then you have a guy who plays like a heavyweight, but he's more of a probably light heavyweight, middleweight, if you want to put him in that burst, that explosiveness, the bend that Nolan Smith has, man. But that's the thing, Dawand Jones does a good job protecting the outside. I'm waiting for somebody to counter him and go cross face, because I'm just like, this big dude is 6'8", 360, 70, 80 pounds with long arms. You are not winning the edge unless it's a short edge on him. You know what I'm saying? He knows how to use that his frame to his advantage. So what do? He likes to overset. I want to see somebody work back inside. And I think Nolan Smith is that guy that has that change of direction, give him that little Euro step, that basketball term, and work back inside, Keith. And then one other Demetric Felton, man. Listen, Kareem Hunt is a free agent. Right. I think the backup running back behind Nick Chubb was Jerome Ford out of Cincy, who I liked coming out of college. But Demetric Felton has looked good through 2 preseason games. Electric, explosive, dynamic, elusive. We know that he played running back and receiver when he was at UCLA, right, in the Pac-12, so he can catch the ball out of the backfield, line up in the slot. All I'm saying is this. Give him if you put DTR, I'm pretty sure that Nick Chubb ain't playing. Start Demetric Felton again, right? I think that he should be their RB2. I truly believe that, Keith. And I feel like if he goes out there and does a good job against the starting potentially the starting defense for the Philadelphia Eagles, man, he could be that good change of pace back to give defenses something else to worry about when Nick Chubb walks off the field in the regular season.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have to if this Cleveland Browns. Obviously, Nick Chubb, he's the bell cow. But what made them special in the past couple of years was the fact that they had two backs, right? And he's going to have to step up and be that change of pace guy, man, because you just don't know what running backs, obviously, them getting beat up. And you want Nick Chubb to be healthy throughout the season and into the postseason if the Cleveland Browns have aspirations of making a deep playoff. Well, DP, we finished up the Cleveland Browns, man. And if you have your notebook, you're saying check mark, check mark, check mark, man. You have all the names, man. We gave you probably 5 to 7 names, man, of Cleveland Browns. Definitely guys to look out for. But DP, now it's time for us to go to the other side of the field, right? We have to go from one bench to the other bench, man, and talk about those Philadelphia Eagles, man. And I'll tell you this, DP, the Philadelphia Eagles have done such a good job drafting over the past 3 years. We have a lot of names. We probably have 10, 12, maybe 15 names, primarily Georgia Bulldogs, man. So coming up next, man, we're going to get into these Philadelphia Eagles players to watch, man, because it's such a deep and talented team that you're going to be looking at starters. You're going to be looking at guys that potentially get cut from the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're going to start for another team. So coming up next, we get into those Philadelphia Eagles.
Did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? Guys, it's normal, but it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, the visible thickness, and the visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, and science-backed ingredients, and their drug-free patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Guys, and it works. In a clinical study, 84% of the men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months of taking Nutrafol. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair for a limited time. Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. The city of brotherly love, Keith. I never understood that term because those people don't really seem like the most loving individuals.
It's crazy because they've embraced but they've embraced both, right? They've embraced being the most harshest, ruthless fans, but then they also embrace the term the city of brotherly love. I couldn't think of two more contradicting.
It's an oxymoron. I don't get it.
Yeah. But they embrace both of them. I don't get it. But DP,
they do.
Where you was going, man? Where you was going?
It's weird. So I had to say that. But Keith, this team was in the Super Bowl. It's crazy to be the Super Bowl champions and then go get 2 national champions on the defensive side of the ball in the first round of the NFL draft with Jalen Carter and Nolan 3. You're right. You're right, because they got Jordan Davis the year before. You're absolutely
Ringo,
correct.
And the Kobe
Kelee Ringo. Yeah. So the name and Kelee Ringo is one of the names I'm keeping my eye on. Kelee Ringo and Elias Ricks. I want to talk those 2 corners, man. You know what I mean? Because what the good thing about both of those young men, they don't have to start right away. They get to sit behind James Bradbury and Darius Slay, right? And it's still got Avonte Maddox, I think, in the slot, if I remember correctly. So, you don't have to start those guys right away, but I'm excited to watch them and see how they perform. You know what I mean? To finish out the preseason, because they're going to get a lot of snaps. Just being able, can they handle man-to-man coverage? We did see the pick 6 from Elias Ricks that you talked about in the first segment. We saw that last week where he's playing off coverage, fluid hips, turns his hips, breaks on the ball. You see the instincts. Are these guys going to live up to the billing of just being more zone corners, Keith? Or can they handle the man-to-man task from snap to snap against NFL caliber wide receivers at the highest level? Man, that's why those are first two names that came to mind when I thought about who am I watching from the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I think this cornerback position is important. DP, I'm looking at this roster, and I didn't even know that this move was made. Greedy Williams, I mentioned him for the Cleveland Browns. He's actually on the per ESPN.
Oh, he is on the Eagles. Yeah,
he's on the Eagles. Yeah, I forgot that move slipped my mind. So we're going to watch Greedy Williams, right? We're just watching him for a different team. But DP, I agree with you. The cornerback, Kelee Ringo, right? Then you have Elias Ricks, man. Somebody has to get let go, right? And you're talking about either a really good athlete and Kelee Ringo, which I don't think he's going to get let go. And somebody Elias Rick's an instinctual type football player, right? And then you're talking about Greedy Williams out there. Then you're talking about, right, they still have, I'm looking at other players, James Barry, Avonte Maddox. So this is a lot of people, Josh Jobe, right? A lot of people that these
Mario Goodrich from Clemson.
Yeah, they have a lot of people on this roster, man. That, like we talked about, if they're not going to make the Eagles, these are still players that are going to make somebody's potential 53-man roster, and you're going to see them play football. But DP, I'll tell you where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go straight to the trenches and who I'm looking at, and that's Big Boy. I haven't heard much, and I don't know if he's injured. I don't think he's injured. Correct me if I'm wrong, and that's Jordan Davis. I just haven't seen much, right? We've seen so much about Jalen Carter and the impact he's going to have. I want to see what is Jalen Carter going to do? Is this going to be a situation where it's the exact opposite, right, from what happened at Georgia, where Jordan Davis, he got the nod, and then Jalen Carter was the spell guy for you? Is it going to be the opposite, where Jalen Carter is going to be the dude, and Jordan Davis, you're just going to come in on spell situations? Because one of those two guys is going to have to step up a lot, right, with them losing Hargraves to the 49ers, I believe. Yep. So one of those guys are going to have to step up. So I'm looking at Jordan Davis. And then I also want to see, man, one of my favorite players from 2 drafts ago, Nakobe Dean. Right, I want to see him get on the field a lot. They lost 2 of their linebackers, the Philadelphia Eagles. I know they lost
TJ
one.
Edwards and I forget the other guy's name, but I think they lost like 2.
They lost 2 linebackers. So I definitely want to see, you know what I'm saying, see what he does and see how he plays. And, because a big knock on him was size, right? And I want to see if he's able to compensate for that size, use his instincts. We know he's an extremely smart guy, engineering major, made a ton of plays at University of Georgia. Was a green dot type guy, right? Like he knew all the play calls and everything. So I want to see him. And then the last guy on his defense, DP, would be Sidney Brown. I just tweeted out a clip from him, man, when they played. I think it was last week's preseason game, man. And the guy, he was just one of those guys, DP, where when you watched him, you're like, look, I don't know if I'll take this guy in the first round. And he'd be like, you know what, 3rd round all day long, right? Like, and I know I'm going to have me a good football player, because he just was, he wasn't a guy that checked the box of length and height and everything, but he just was a good football player, much like Antoine Winfield Jr. for the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? He was similar to that, to where you knew these guys were limited just due to their physical frame, but they were just instinctual football players, man. And these are the type of guys that you win football games, which I definitely want to see Sidney Brown and how he shows.
Yeah, I'm glad you dropped Sidney Brown's name, Keith. Your boy from Alabama on the offensive line, Tyler Steen.
Yes, sir.
Looked pretty decent last week. They have him at guard, which is part of the discussion we had pre-draft. Was like, man, he moves well, he's strong, but the arm length was concerning. It was like, is he going to play guard when he gets into the league? And the Eagles drafted him, I think, 3rd round, if I remember, 3rd or 4th round, if I remember correctly. And they have him pegged at the right guard position. That's where he's been slated. And like I said, he played last week, and he looked pretty decent. I want to see him go out there and just continue to get better, because just continue to improve this offensive line. When you pay your quarterback, you got to be able to have cost-efficient contracts, all over the field. I think Tyler Steen could be one of those steals for them, Keith. Another guy, on Tanner McKee, from Stanford, the quarterback, who looked good last week, had some really nice throws in his first NFL action. And he's away from that weird, I don't know why Stanford ran that deep mesh, RPO offense with a 6'6", slow-footed quarterback. Like, it didn't make sense to me, man. You know what I mean? So now he's a more traditional offense that fit him better, and he looked better all around.
He would be a guy, DP, that I would wonder if these are just simply resume situations for him. And what I mean is that he is totally different from an athletic skill set than the other guys that they have on their depth chart, right? And I'm looking, obviously, Jalen Hurts, but they have Marcus Mariota, and I know Ian Book plays some recently, right?
He's an athlete too.
Yeah, he's still a pretty good athlete. And Tanner McKee is the only one that's kind of the odd man out. And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, right? But what I'm saying is that maybe this is not the perfect offense for him. And maybe from an offensive coordinator perspective, right, he's not the perfect quarterback to fit your system, but maybe he can do a good job of showcasing himself to then go somewhere with a more traditional offense for him. So yeah, I like that you brought his name up, DB, because he's listed as 4th on the depth chart, on the ESPN depth chart. But this is still huge reps for him, because he may be showcasing his next home.
That and he could potentially knock Ian Book off the roster. You know what I
That's
mean? Where he's
that's true
QB3.
too.
You know,
That's true
or
too. They
probably
could just say,
QB2
you know
would have been
what?
Marcus Mariota has played. You know what I mean?
Right.
Throughout his career, like even in the preseason, he's still not throwing the ball like on time. He's still like making plays with his legs and stuff. But at least Tanner McKee could potentially move up the chart to being QB3 if they decide to keep 3 QBs and everything like that. But I think that for him, like I said, he made some good throws, some good plays. So I definitely want to see what else he can bring to the table, for this offense, man. Because at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts is QB1. But like I said, for these type of moments, like Tanner McKee, like all these teams that need like a good backup, you know what I mean? They got an older quarterback, the Minnesota Vikings. I think that's the first one to come to everybody's mind. Like they need somebody behind Kirk Cousins. So that could potentially be the predecessor and stuff like that, to where if Tanner McKee's cut or something like that, you can go ahead and make that call, man. This Eagles team has a ton of talent, Keith. I want to look at the running backs to see, Kenneth Gainwell and Rashad Penny, who's going to be like RB2. I know that there's a tweet saying that Gainwell might be RB1 and get a lot of the touches. We'll see how that plays out. But they traded for DeAndre Swift, so I expect him to be RB1. But just kind of see who's going to be that second back on this offense, man, to really give Jalen Hurts all the complementary weapons he needs at his disposal.
Yep, I agree, DP. I agree, man. So I appreciate that breakdown. I feel like it was a really good break. I knew we had a lot of players, man. We probably got in there for 12 to 15 players that go around. But DP, coming up next, man, is my favorite segment. I don't know if it's your favorite segment. I'm not gonna speak for you, man, but my favorite segment, and that's the pick, right? I like picking the winner and then figuring out. And I almost like it a little bit more in the preseason because it's the depth chart, right? Like now we're looking at the depth and like, okay, I know these guys are not playing. Then I envision these guys being better than these guys. So, man, we're coming up next. We're getting into the pick 'em. We're gonna pick who we think is gonna win this game and why.
It's time to pick them, guys. You know what time it is. We're about to pick this game, give the winning predictions. Cleveland Browns, Philadelphia Eagles, Thursday Night Football. I don't know if we see any of Jalen Hurts. Like we know we're not seeing Deshaun Watson. Not sure if we see any of Jalen Hurts. But, Keith, who is winning this game tonight?
DP, so you said something very key at the top of the podcast, right? You said that this is technically preseason game 3 for the Cleveland Browns, right? But it's preseason game 2 for the Philadelphia Eagles, which is usually the warm-up game. So I'm confused, right? I don't know who's going to play, who's not going to play. Like it's kind of confusing because they're not on the same path, right? And so this is what my heart is telling me, and I'm gonna go. My heart and my mind is telling me, but I don't know how many starters the Eagles are going to play. But I'm gonna go with the Cleveland Browns. I think the Cleveland Browns are going to win this game. I like them in the trenches, obviously, but I think they're going to have more young guys that they're trying to get out there on the field. We talked about how deep the Philadelphia Eagles are, but I think at key positions like Dorian Thompson-Robinson playing at least a half, I think is really going to matter. And then another key position that we didn't talk about with the Eagles, and is because they don't give us any names. But I don't know how much I like their wide receivers past A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, right? So how many points are they actually going to put up? Like that number 3, that number 4, that number 5 wide receiver slot is looking very interesting. I'm looking at the names, and I'm like, I don't know. So I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns, man, because even if a decent amount of Philadelphia Eagles starters, I think that the Cleveland Browns, they play a physical mentality of football, right? Like, so they'll be able to stop the run, things like that. So I'm going to go with, I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a physical game. But I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Keith, I was looking at that wide receiver core the entire show when we got to that Eagles segment. I was like, Jesus Christ. It caught me. It took me for a loop. But not so fast, my friend. I'm picking the Philadelphia Eagles in this game, Keith. I think the defensive side of the ball, like when they go second, third, and probably even fourth string, they got some dudes, even though, especially on the defensive line, man. And guys that, I wasn't able to get to. Milton Williams, Marlon Tuipulotu, Katavius Street, Moro Ojomo from Texas. Like, they got a lot of guys on the defensive line. Then the backup linebackers, just bringing in Zach Cunningham and Miles Jack recently and everything. I think that they have, and one of my guys, Teron Jackson, edge rusher out of CCU, of course, the Carolina Great dude, hard worker. I think that he should get enough burn as well as Janarius Robinson, the other edge rusher from Florida State. I think the defense is going to help that second, third offense for the Philadelphia Eagles, man. So I'm picking the Eagles to walk away from this game. I do think it's going to be a good game. Once those starters are sat down, man, we really get deep into this, to the talent that's on this team. I think the talent discrepancy is going to be a little bit too much for them Cleveland Browns.
Well, DP, I'll tell you this, man, real quick before I wrap this up. I agree with you. Like, that defensive line is extremely deep. And when you read off the names, I was like, oh man, yeah, okay, that's kind of scary, right? But the Cleveland Browns, if you're talking about one team that has the opportunity, right, to make something happen, it's the Cleveland Browns, because they have nothing but mobile quarterbacks, right? Kellen Mond, Josh Dobbs, they win nothing but. So I'm expecting a lot of tuck and runs from the Cleveland Brown quarterbacks, DP. But now that was definitely a good point that you made. I didn't even think about that. But like I said, I think it's going to be a good game. I think we're going to have some highlights. I think it's going to be fun, and it's going to be physical. But DP, that wraps up, man. That wraps up today's show, man. We're talking about Thursday. We're talking about Thursday night football. We've given you the prospect, man. Tweet at us, talk to us this evening when you're watching the football game, man. Let us know who's standing out for you, who you want to make your roster, who you're okay with letting go, man, and what points or what parts do you want to improve your roster. So, man, make sure y'all tap in. Y'all talk to us, man. You're locked on NFL Draft. We tapped in with us 24/7, 365. Shout out to you guys, our everydayers.
Yes, sir. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Whoever listen to podcasts, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, especially on the YouTube side, hit the bell notification after you subscribe. Like the videos, comment, talk to us, like Keith said, but hit the bell notification so you're notified whenever we drop content on the channel. In terms of, as we always tell you, man, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday. In terms of Twitter, you can find and follow us. Keith Sanchez at The Talent Code, me, Damian Parson, DP_NFL. On tomorrow's show, we have Friday Night Lights. We have a couple more games, multiple games that we'll get into and break down the prospects that you need to know about. Keep an eye on Friday night for Friday Night Lights in the NFL, the week 2 of the NFL preseason. But come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.